Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shaman's Cave. I'm Renee Baribeau.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandra Ingerman and welcome to the Shaman's Cave.
Well, Sandra and I will get going on the topic, and we have like this wonderful back and forth ping pong conversation. And we realize we never tell you what we're up to or our courses or anything like that. Or once in a while, we'll throw in a book, but maybe you don't know who we are and what we're about. So in July, I'm teaching a wind knot class that you can go over to windwork.org, where all of my classes are housed and evergreen classes. And I'm also going to be doing an in-person retreat this October in Ohio because I have a lot of people from the East Coast. And so if you're ready for some in-person deeper work with the Wind Clan, come over and join us. And then Sandra is going to tell you about the course she has coming up.
Yeah, so as you know, I teach courses on shamanic journeying and healing. And due to the pandemic, keeping my courses more to journeying versus advanced healing work. And so I've been doing a few courses on shamanic journeying, and I'm doing a new one, and it's for people who never journeyed before, but it's also for people who are a little bit more experienced because the first four sessions, I'm going to teach the true foundational journeys that you can do for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
And then we're going to work in breakout rooms and we're going to do small journeys together, doing some healing work for each other and trying to help each other. And that is such an exciting part of
Hmm.
the work. And it's such a fun, powerful, and magical part of the work. And so that's going to be starting, that course starts July 12th, and you can get information on my website, sandraingerman.com. And also, I just wanted to let people know that due to the COVID, I have not been teaching in person, and I really, really, really miss it. I miss the days when we used to have to pack our bags and get our plane tickets and go through all the dramas of your refrigerator broke right before you're leaving or your cat an emergency. I miss those days of the pilgrimage of us all coming together and then being so happy once we got there. But the world has changed, and so we have to find ways where we can bring that magic and joy into some of our online classes. And so I'm looking forward to bringing some of the magic and joy of my in-person workshops into this new course. But I also have a lot of courses. Every course that I've basically taught online now has been made available through Sounds True and the Shift Network. And so on my website, sandraingerman.com, under trainings, you'll see an entire list of digital courses that you can buy and take at any time that you want. And they're amazing courses about working in nature, medicine for the earth, and healing with spiritual light, walking through the dark night of the soul. All these courses there, and shamanic journeying, but take the live one with me, but you can get digital ones too. And so there's a lot. If you go to my website under trainings, you can get the information. And because I don't know when the show is airing, I would say the best thing to do about my upcoming course is to go to my website and get the information there on that. It's through, again, the Shift Network.
Well, so those are our commercials, and
Yeah.
we love the support we get through you liking us on Facebook and you liking us in YouTube. The one that surprises me the most is I've added a question to the Shaman's Cave. Are you subscribed to us on YouTube? And I get a lot of no's. Off with your head. So if you follow us at all and you part of our group, really subscribe to us. It helps us because then they give some advertising dollars, and it certainly doesn't pay for the show, but it certainly helps, and we appreciate all of the support we get and the donations that we get, because we do this because we like each other, and we do this out of love, and we do this out of service to you, because we know if we can navigate these hard times, that our conversation about how we do it, we get so many emails about, I love the way you just have conversations because I feel included, and you make such sense and help guide. It gives me hope when I listen to you. And those are just such great feedback that we get, that we just keep going. We're on year 4.
I think Renee and I are the only two sane people on the planet today, so you shouldn't be watching any other shows.
At least we think so. Well, we have a great topic for you today, and I'll let Sandra talk about it. I don't know if you've ever noticed all these years, but she's the topic keeper, and I'm the social media and marketing and the logistics. So it's a really nice. Everyone should have such a great symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, so we have a couple of really interesting topics coming up, but I think that the topic that we want to talk about today is on land, on a deeper connection with land. And Renee and I constantly talk about land and nature because that's all shamanism is. Shamanism is a practice of animism, and the word animism means that everything that is here is alive and has a spirit. And so in shamanism, the shaman interacts with everything that is alive. So we talk about nature all the time, and we're always trying to get you out on the land, and we're always trying to get you out in nature more. That's been part of our shows. So this show is similar to this, but it has a different depth to it. And what happened for me was a friend suffered a terrible tragedy here in New Mexico. I think maybe many of you are aware that in New Mexico we had the second biggest fire in New Mexico's history. And it was started by the Forest Service, and so there is a lot of controversy around what's going on. Of you don't do a controlled burns when the winds are over 50 miles an hour. And what happened is we ended up with the biggest fire in New Mexico's history, and the oldest residents of New Mexico, their families, nothing left. It's just incredibly tragic. And so I was thinking about, so much land has been lost, just so much unbelievable beauty has been lost, old growth trees. Um, and so I was thinking about the land, and I wasn't in an ordinary state when I was doing this because, as I said, Renee and I talk about the land all the time. I moved into kind of an unseen place. I was in one of my visionary places, which I haven't been in a really long time, and I really love them. And I remembered the day, it was 30 years ago, when I walked onto the land that my husband and I ended up buying to live on, and it was 30 years ago. And I remember saying the words, "This is my home. This is the land that I will live on for the rest of my life. And I will die here." And I remember for years and years and years walking every day, every inch of the property, telling all the trees how much I love them, and meeting the trees and meeting the land. And my husband and I working endlessly during the bark beetle season to save our trees using spiritual methods. We didn't use any physical methods. We used spiritual methods, and we saved the trees on our land, and 6 million trees died in New Mexico, but we were able to save them by doing constant ceremonies, constant work, constant transfiguration. Um, and so the other day, the vision that I got was that when I got ill, I disconnected from the land. And I didn't realize that what I realized when I got that understanding was that I'm so bonded with the land that the land and I are one. There's no difference. And the image that I have is of a rope in a circular braid, and that the web, the strength of that rope is so strong that nothing can get through it. It's fully protected. And so energetically, I experience this incredibly strong, energetic, perfect weaving of the land, and everything on the land is just in this weaving, and I'm part of this weaving. There's no separation to it. It's just one home. The weaving of the land, my house, all the beings, myself and my husband, we're all woven into this one giant, beautiful, braided rope. And it just gave me a deeper sense of home, a really deeper sense of home. And I feel that really that this is an important topic because people don't have a sense of home right now. We don't have a sense of home inside of ourselves. We're so confused about what's going on. We don't know if we're supposed to be taking vitamin D or not taking vitamin D. All of a sudden, there's a controversy on vitamin D out there now. You know what I mean? And where is our sense of home, our sense of knowing? And even those of you living in urban areas, there's still that weaving. You're woven into that area. What do you want in your home? And that means the land you live on, the house you live on, your body. It's all one weaving. And what do you want in that weaving? Um, I mean, because some things that are in my weaving that I didn't realize are in there, I don't want.
Pull out those sticks. It's funny. I was away traveling last week, and the cat sitter wrote me, and she said something about, that she had, that she moved the mattress around because she liked to sleep on the floor, but that she respected my altar. And I had this thought to myself, like, which altar? The whole place is an altar. Like, that was why we had a little adjustment getting ready to begin with, is because my home is sacred.
Right.
There's not a part of it. I look around, I look out in the yard. It's sacred. And that's how I live, and that's how I embody the space that I am. And so, sometimes I think I'm falling down on the job, like, that I'm not dusting off the altar enough or something like that. But then when I realize that I'm the altar,
Right.
and I had that revelation really early in my life when I went to the training I had, that was like carrying a mesa bag of rocks. And I did all the work around all of these rocks, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm traveling, and I'm thinking like, well, this is one heavy load of rocks. And I'm there like, all of a sudden I had this vision of all of those teaching, all of those learnings embodying me. And then I planted all the rocks back out in the yard, and I'm there like, okay, got the teaching, the rocks can stay home. And that doesn't mean that I don't carry a rock, or that but to me, in the configuration, and not to take away anyone who carries a rock mesa, because that's your right, but the learning became part of me and part of myself as the altar, and so that was what became important. And after they sat in the closet long enough, I'm well, they'd rather be outside in the yard with their friends,
Right.
and so there they sit.
Yeah, I really love that metaphor. That's really a beautiful metaphor. And I think where we're trying to go with this, I know that sometimes we talk about a really practical topic, and sometimes Renee and I just happen to get into places in our lives where we're tapped into a visionary place. And
Hmm.
I've been kind of out of that. I've just been nature driven and not into visions. And all of a sudden, something happened recently, and visions are starting to come to me again, which I love, and I'll see where they go. But it's when they first come, they're hard to explain to the
Hmm.
public. And so I'm doing the best I can to talk about that. We don't realize um, the meaning of home, actually. We don't realize that home, our body, our house, our land, it's one home, it's one being. There's no separation. It's like Renee said when she thought about dusting her altar, she saw that her altar was also her body. And that's exactly what Renee is saying. That's exactly what I've been getting is that we're all one. The city that you're living in, the house that you're living in, it's all your home. And so it's time for us to, we don't have a solution right at this moment, but it's time for us to start reflecting on what do we want to bring into our homes, our sacred land, our sacred homes, our sacred bodies, and what is it time to get rid of and not allow in. So when you're making a decision about something, and not just about buying a wind whistle or a drum or another sacred object, something big in life, this is going to affect your home. And is this a good effect on your home, or is it a bad effect on what kind of planting are you doing? What are you bringing into the land? What are you eating? And of course, that brings us to the bigger topic of climate change, of what we've brought into our home. Water, air, fire, earth are our home. And we have not brought good things into our home. And that's why we're having the issues that we're having. So, why don't we back up, and why don't we start slow, and why don't we start reflecting on everything that we're bringing into our home?
Yes, and bringing into our bodies, uh, the day that we're recording this, and this is important. The Supreme Court just overruled Roe versus Wade, and now for women, this 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 statement that we were able to claim our bodies as our rightful, instrument of divine service, and to make that choice about whether or not we wanted to have a child brought into the world is brought into question. And I'm not even looking at it from necessarily political right or wrong. I'm looking at it from, like, if this is my altar and this is my temple, you know, does it, you, in some ways you would like, oh, we don't need a law to protect it. We have natural law to protect it. And yet we live in a society where we're out of sync with natural law. Because if we were living rightfully in natural law, it wouldn't be a political issue at all. And yet we become into these extremes, just like a tornado, just like a hurricane, where, like you were saying, a fire burnt down everything. We live with a cause and a consequence, and so we're going to have to look at what is our relationship to our body as women or as people, and how are we going to hold that information as we move forward to, what would the land do?
Yeah, if we go back to a previous show that we did, talking about that it's time to bring in the feminine energies. And that was part of a vision that came that I'm going to talk about in the next show that Renee and I do. But I did get a very, very strong vision when I was in an extremely altered state that new goddess energies are coming in. Big, big goddess energies are coming in, but we have to invite them in.
Hmm.
And I'll talk more about that again in another show. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we did a show on one of the issues that we're dealing with is the masculine and feminine is so out of balance right now. And so everything is about power over greed, control, and we need to um, into our land, into that weaving I was talking about. What do you want in your home? We want those feminine energies in our home too. And right now, it's the male energies, the control. You don't own your home. You don't own your home on any level. I mean, even if you bought your home, the government can find a reason to take it away from you. So, um, the feminine, we have our sovereignty. We have our sovereignty. And so basically, the pull is now getting so extreme. It'll be interesting to see what brings this back into some balance again.
Yeah, I just can't help but think of this chart that this uh, neurophysicist had, where the quantum field, that it goes, it's the two polar ends of the quantum field meet again in the middle, and I keep always going back to that in my mind, that as distant as we get on both sides, whether you believe, whether you're pro-life or not, that there's a meeting somewhere up here in the middle. And I look forward to finding, what that is. And I also have to remember every day that I don't own my home. I share it with the pine trees out there and the grass and the deers who come walking through, and the raccoon, and I just gratefully, have the privilege of increasing some livelihood here by holding it, but that I try never to forget. Like when I was building, I painstakingly had trees moved and plants moved, and I got friends to come get the things because I didn't want to disrupt what was already here and growing. And let I want to remember every single day that I'm here, as this is the altar, and I get to, I'm the one that needs to be dusted off on the altar, not
Yeah,
the other way around.
right. That's the point that I was trying to make is the vision I had was that I am not a separate being and my
Mhm.
house is not separate from this land. It's I'm using the metaphor how the vision was shown to me was as a rope, braided weaving, but think of it as a gorgeous weaving with a picture on it. I'm just part of the picture.
Mhm.
I'm in the
I
picture.
love that.
Doing anything. I'm part of the picture. You're part of the picture. You're in a weaving in life. You're woven into your land. You're woven into your house. And picture images of this weaving and what's there.
Mm.
And what do you want to add to the weaving and what do you want to unravel out of that weaving?
I love that. I can't wait to see the journey that's going to come with that in the future. And you're part of our weaving. you know, the people who show up week after week. You're part of this bigger weaving that we're coming together. And you know, Sandra and I were talking about it before the show started, was that we have to remember that all of these strands that she's talking about together is very strong, that we really, really have a lot more power together than we do if we're just looking at our own, you know, our own piece of the weaving. But, you know, you think about, remember when they made that AIDS thing that extended miles?
Yeah,
So if as gardeners of, you know, shamans who are gardeners, what do you call it? Gardeners
energy.
of energy, if we would put that all together right now. Imagine the amount of beautiful power, unstoppable power we would have, because we have the earth too.
We are the earth,
We are the earth. We have all of nature is with us.
right? We're all part of it, and I don't know. It just brought it brought me back to the rem, remembering just the amazing joy of feeling myself on a piece of land where I wanted to get to know every single tree and every rock and meet them like my greatest friend.
Hmm.
And when you do that, you know, life changes, and that is what we should be doing out there, not just meeting other people. We should be meeting other nature beings and see that we're all the same and we're all part of one weaving together. So that's all I wanted to share. I hope that this makes a little bit of sense to you. I know that people who I grew up in Brooklyn, and I love Brooklyn. I love the land. I love the earth there. And I can see that I was part of that weaving when I was a kid. So it really doesn't matter where you live. You
Mm-mm.
can't just say, I don't live in the country like you do. I lived in the city and I was part of that weaving. That land and me were one, and I loved it. So you can do it. You know, connect with your land and connect with it as you're merging together. You're all one being, and see what that feels like for you. Start with that and see where it goes.
Last week I was in New York City, and I was only there for a short little minute. I got out the train at Grand Central and I walked to Penn Station. And those of you who don't know New York, it's about what, 15 blocks, 20 blocks.
Yeah.
And there's an energy that lives in New York, and it's got the land, and it's got the people, and it's got the building. It's an energy. So every place has its own energetic stamp that we're part of. And if you have those places like Provincetown, there's places in the world that I go and it's just like, oh yeah, it's like a little touch in. So touch into something that feels really good for you this week, and maybe go out in your yard with beginner's mind and reintroduce yourself to all your trees and all your stones and all of the birds and the animals out there, and say, hey, I'm here, but I want to learn from you.
Yeah, and just remember that you're not in control over them, as Renee's saying, learn from them, but also realize that you're all part of one beautiful painting.
Hmm. I'm inspired after today's show, Sandra. So thank you all.
Yeah, it's a beautiful show. It's always beautiful to be with you, Renee. Thank you, and blessings, everyone.